Yo, what's up, family? Before we start the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and share to any and everyone you can, just so we can get out there a little bit more. With that being said, let's get right into it. The Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7 at TD Garden 112 to 88. The Celtics, of course, will be advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second straight time to face the Miami Heat for a second straight time. Of course, we'll talk about them. Pretty annoying we got to face this team again, but I feel like, especially without Tyler Hero, they just don't have the firepower. But I'm always going to respect Coach Spo. Motherfucker Jimmy just acts like a totally different human every time he plays us. But let's get into the flow of Game 7. So the first quarter, I wasn't really encouraged, I'm going to say. Like, I wasn't scared, but I was like, the way they played the first quarter, the 76ers defense was incredible in the first quarter. The Celtics were not getting anything easy. The penetration and the ball movement just wasn't there. It was a lot of Tatum, having to do stuff on his own in the one-on-one game. He got to the line a couple times too, but an 11-point PJ Tucker first quarter, the highest quarter he's ever had this season, points-wise, that really fueled them. And I thought it was going to be a long day because, of course, those are the shots that we would allow them to take. We would rather PJ Tucker beat us than James Harden or Embiid, of course. But the first quarter, I think that they hit 4 corner threes. I think Tyrese Maxey got the first one, and then PJ hit 3 out of 6 threes in that first quarter, I believe. So it just wasn't a very encouraging first quarter from a Celtics perspective, but I was glad it was only the first quarter because the second quarter they picked it up. The defense was great in the second quarter. The 76ers shot 7 for 19 from the field and only 1 for 7 from the three-point line. In the words of Jaylen Brown, the energy shifted. It seemed like when that flagrant foul happened. Now, I have an entire compilation of James Harden pushing off this whole series, and it hasn't been called once. This was the first time that they called Harden for using his off arm the entire series. This is the first one. The compilation is like 1 minute and 30 seconds of just clips of him repeatedly pushing off. Now, props to James. If they gonna keep allowing you to do the shit, then I'm gonna keep doing it, because in his eyes, they're being consistent, which the A word is just consistently wrong, but it is what it is. But he finally got called for it. It was just a little too excessive. Hit Brown in his mouth area. He was bleeding and shit. And they called a flagrant foul. After the flagrant foul, Jaylen was hyping the crowd up and shit. He got a steal, got a layup, and it just felt like, since that point, just felt like the defense and the energy in the Garden along with the team was just impregnable, and it was too much for the 76ers to handle. Tatum had 14 in the second quarter. The Celtics were 12 for 22 in that quarter, shot about 55%. Jaylen also had 9, and then a third quarter avalanche. We knew that, Tatum had a great first half. He had 25 points. He only made 1 3 with 25 points, which, if you've been watching these videos, if you follow me on Twitter, link will be in the description on that. You know how much I talk about Tatum's shot profile. And there was too many times in the ATL series where half or more of Tatum's total shots were threes. So he would have like 20 shots attempted and 11 would be threes. That's not the way Tatum's supposed to be playing. From a standpoint where this season he has a career low in three-point percentage at 35%, it's just not a good look. And also, when you're 73% in the paint, which is a career high, why not try to get downhill, get to the line, and then once you have seen the ball go in the basket, then you shoot some threes, which is exactly what he did in this game. But first half, of course, he had 25 points. Again, only 1 3 made. But it was imperative that him and the Celtics came out with the same intensity in the third quarter. I firmly understood and I knew if the Celtics just had it in them to get a cool 10-0 run, the game would be over. Joel Embiid and Harden are two guys that I know when they think they have a chance to win, they play their asses off. Or like, at least effort is there and they're still trying to win. But when you make them lay down, they will lay down. And that third quarter avalanche, that 33-10 Celtics advantage in the third quarter, you seen those two lay down. You seen Harden just passing up every opportunity he had. You seen Embiid, the way the Celtics were defending him. They showed him Al Horford in front of him, then a person beside him and a person on his other side. There's no lanes. He's just sitting there jabbing like Carmelo and shit. And at that point, Al can play him straight up because he's not going north and south, he's going east and west. Embiid is the most dominant force, especially with his ability to hit the free throws when he's going north and south. There's nothing you can do when he's going full speed coming right at you and he's not doing all that pretty shit. And he's just going right in your chest and he's going up. The Celtics showed him a wall this entire game. He was 5 for 18, 15 points. And it was because of Al Horford, of course, who these last couple games has played incredible defense down the stretch when we needed him to. But also the helping from Smart, from Tatum, from Rob. They didn't give him any looks in the second half. And that's a part of why he didn't do shit in the second half. And the 76ers shot 3 for 21 in that third quarter and 2 for 13 on threes. Just, great switching, great communication, great individual efforts in that third quarter defensively from the Celtics. And the fourth quarter was just a matter of not letting the 76ers get too close. Joe Mazzulla had a great timeout. I think the best timeout of the season. The Celtics were up like 22, but you kind of felt the Celtics were like playing around. They were slowing down. They hadn't scored in a while. The 76ers were getting open shots, but they just couldn't hit them. And you could sense like, okay, they're starting to let go of the ropes a little bit. The 76ers had missed another wide open three that could have cut the lead down. They got the defensive rebound, and Joe called the timeout instantly. He was like, no, we're not doing this shit. And that's what we've been waiting for him to do. Is sometimes with certain teams, the Celtics have immense talent. I think they're the most talented team in this league. But sometimes you got to micromanage these guys. They have those stretches where they play like children. They turn the ball over. They forget what got them to that point, and they just start doing whatever the fuck they want to, especially when they have a lead. 22-point lead in the fourth quarter. Of course, 99% of the times you're safe, but at that time it was 10 minutes left. That's too much time to be playing around and shit. 4 minutes, 3 minutes, you can talk me into coasting and shit. But 10 minutes left, hell no. So he called the timeout. They got straight. They never let the 76ers get close enough to make anything happen. So that was good to see. Now, of course, on to the players. Jason Tatum, this is what dreams are made of. This is the type of performance where this is a signature game. Of course, he had a 50-point game against the Nets I think that was 3 years ago. He had one last season against Milwaukee in Game 6, 46 points in Milwaukee. But this shit, bro, and to be honest, I was surprised that he came out with the same level of aggression and he was still hot in the second half. The 25 points in the first half was like he had to work for all that shit. Especially in the first quarter where the 76ers were just making everything hard and Embiid seemed like he was on every drive. Tatum was working him. He was still driving. He was getting fouled. He didn't have a turnover. He had 51 points, didn't have a turnover. The first time that's happened in NBA history. But again, this is why I talk about his shot profile so much. One, because Tatum is a better driver and 2-point scorer than he is a 3-point scorer. At this point in his career, that's just a fact. Two, I've watched every Celtics game since he's been in the fucking league. Every game this year, I've watched more than one time. Tatum most definitely is a player that when he starts off hot early and he sees the ball go in the hoop, that helps his touch, that helps his jumper. It helps his confidence. You know what I'm saying? And you saw how in the first half he had 21 points, only hit 1 3. You seen in that third quarter when he's just eyeballing Embiid from the 3-point line. You can't let that man get hot. When he gets going, it's over, and there's nothing you can do. And none of his shots hit rim. All of those threes in the third quarter, he had 17 points. None of his jumpers are hitting any type of rim. He's fired up. You see the emotion from Tatum that you don't always see. And it's like he knows this is his team. And of course, not putting up 50-point double-doubles, but he has to show the consistency of a superstar. His ceiling is what gets people to call him a superstar. But to me, a guy's floor is a superstar. Like, what is your worst game? How are you at your worst? That, to me, defines a superstar. A guy like KD, again, I use this example all the time. The Celtics swept the Nets. We locked down KD. Everyone was like, oh, I've never seen KD be defended like this in a 7-game series. KD's averages were 23 points on like 45% shooting. That's KD's floor. At his worst, he's gonna average 23 points on like fucking 9 for 22 or 9 for 20. Tatum's floor last season was 10 points and 5 turnovers in playoff games, in multiple playoff games. That's why last season I was reluctant to call him a superstar. When he shows that consistency of his bad games, which he has, he's gotten better at that this season. Even games like, what was that game 6, where he struggled mightily for 3.5 quarters. He didn't score anything. He didn't score a bucket for 3.5 quarters. He had 8 rebounds. He had like 7 assists, and he was playing tremendously on the defensive side of the ball. Then the scoring came. He had 16 in the fourth quarter, closed the game out in enemy territory. That's what you need to start seeing from Tatum. Now, he had 3 straight games where he started slow, scoring the ball. As the best player on your team, you can't do that. That's a part of the consistency thing. Everybody has their bad games, but he had 3 straight games in the first quarter. I think they showed a stat. It was like in the first quarter of the last of games 4, 5, and 6, he was 3 for 40. No, you can't do that shit. He's the luckiest top option in the league. No other top option can start off like that, and their teams constantly stay within striking distance. It doesn't happen. Brad Stevens has built this team to where Tatum can not be Tatum for a long stretch of a game, a long ass stretch of a game, and all he needs to do is come up and be himself scoring wise for 5 minutes, and the Celtics can get a win in a playoff game, in an elimination game at that. So props for Tatum. I need him to keep doing this shit. If he keeps this up, he can be a part of a really special group at just age 25. Long list of playoff experience already. He just got to keep the shit up so we can get this ring. Jaylen Brown, when you merge these two together and they're playing as one unit, it's nothing that teams can do when they're playing as one, when they're the same J. It's not 2 J's. When it's one of them, the shit is unstoppable. So I just need him to keep playing together. Robert Williams. I do want to talk about Rob some, of course. I never pass up an opportunity to talk about Rob. But this game was interesting, and he was the huge change that kind of flipped things for the Celtics, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Game 6, he was inserted into the starting lineup, and the 76ers did not eclipse 90 points. He was helping. He was everywhere. He was rebounding. And there were portions in this series where Rob is guarding Embiid by himself, and Embiid's aggressiveness towards the paint kind of wavers. And I said it on Twitter. Some other people also seen it. It's like Embiid shoots more jumpers when Rob is on him. I don't know what that means, but that's good for us. As long as Embiid is outside the paint where he's unstoppable, we'll live with that shit. But this game, offensively, Georges Niang said something to Rob. I don't know when it happened. I don't know what he said. But there was a dunk that Rob got in the second quarter. He dunked it, looked back at Niang, and pointed to him. And ever since that point, Rob was as aggressive as I've seen him this season offensively. He was grabbing the ball, going at Embiid. He was putting his head down, and he was going to the rim. Now, deciding to do that finally in a game 7 was kind of iffy, right? But he's Rob. He shoots 70% for his career. But it was just nice to see him be aggressive because in that offense, he has openings. He has so many openings. He's the guy that can't shoot. So teams will kind of give him a cushion to help on the other shooters. He has to take the lanes when he has them. And he's not the same athlete as he was last season, or last postseason, I should say. Even though he was on one leg, which makes no sense to me. He's one of the more perplexing athletes I've ever seen. But with that being said, he's still impactful. And when he's put in the right positions and he's doing the things he does well, he does them almost better than anybody. The lob catching, the dunking, the helper spot, the blocking shots. His movement is looking a lot more fluid than it was. So good game by Rob. Good game by Al Horford. We do need him to hit shots. It's just crazy that a 43% three-point shooter just went absolutely cold in the series. I think that was a huge part of Embiid's defensive impact because even though he's a great rim protector, he does have some Rudy Gobert tendencies where teams will run a pick and pop and he literally just leaves the pop man wide open. We need out of his shots. So But it was great to see him defensively one-on-one against Embiid in this series. Got a lot of clutch stops on the MVP, and it was just great to see him, still be able to handle a guy like Embiid, which makes me so happy going forward with the guys like Bam and possibly Jokic or AD. Very, very tough matchups, but if he can hold his own against Embiid, I think he won't get killed against those guys. But just a great team win. Going to face the Heat, of course, for the second time in 2 years in the East Conference Finals. I'll probably be doing a preview on that either tomorrow or early game day. But yeah, this is Nick. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, again, share to any and everyone that you can. And again, this is Nick. Peace.